Welcome back to Kleppers Corner, where we learn that history isn't random. It's petty. Some dates get a quiet Tuesday, others get a full-blown existential crisis. November 4th, she's the drama. It's the diva of the calendar, strutting in every few decades, flipping the geopolitical table, and leaving historians saying, we really should have seen that coming. This day's resume includes discovering an Egyptian king, inventing the surveillance state, electing multiple presidents, assassinating peace, crushing revolutions, signing climate treaties, and yes, ruining Jimmy Carter's chances at re-election. If history were a reality show, November 4th would be the producer's plant stirring up every storyline. So grab your ballot, your tinfoil hat, and your archaeology brush. We're going digging through the chaos of the November 4th fulcrum. Segment 1. The day America decides. Elections, egos, and existential crisis. Every few years, November 4th becomes democracy's performance review. Our chance to say, boss, about your last term. And sometimes, history writes Yelp reviews in all caps. Take 2008. Barack Obama, a guy with a last name half the country still mispronounced, becomes the 44th president, the first African-American in the White House. And I mean actually in charge, not just giving tours. He wins 365 electoral votes, flips red states blue, and makes Virginia say, fine, I guess we're progressive now, but only on even-numbered years. Obama built a coalition so broad it looked like a Disney Channel finale. Young voters, suburban moms, Wall Street refugees, and that one guy who just wanted health insurance and good vibes. 66% of voters under 30 backed him. That's basically every college student who'd just discovered irony and hope. Even rich folks jumped ship, like, yes, we can, get a tax break? And the economy was collapsing so fast that the Dow Jones needed therapy. Voters didn't just want change. They wanted an adult with a fire extinguisher. But the best part? The man who gave us Yes, We Can owes his job to the day Jimmy Carter said, no, you can't. Because exactly 29 years earlier, on the same date, November 4th, 1979, Americans were being held hostage in Tehran, while Carter's approval rating was being held hostage in Washington. A year later, same day, Ronald Reagan wins in a landslide. November 4th basically said, oh, you thought this was just an election? Nope, this is karma's anniversary party. Reagan's victory wasn't politics, it was revenge. The hostages were still captive, gas lines were long, and America wanted a cowboy who'd at least look good while we spiraled. The Gipper wrote in saying government was the problem, taxes were evil, and jelly beans were a philosophy. And thus, November 4th became democracy's Groundhog Day. See your shadow? Boom. 444 days of crisis. See Reagan's shadow? Boom. 12 years of conservative tanning bed. Segment 2. Revolutions and repression. The Soviets, the students, and the shots that ended peace. November 4th, 1956. Hungary's revolution, a brave, messy, coffee-fueled attempt to tell Moscow, we'd like to unsubscribe from communism, please. The Soviets reply with tanks, because in the Soviet dictionary, unsubscribe means flatten. Thousands die, and 200,000 flee west. That's how you know a movement's over, when your new national anthem is Highway to Austria. Then jump to 1979. Same date, different despair. Iranian students storm the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. They take 52 Americans hostage for 444 days. They call themselves the followers of the Imam's line, which sounds less like a political faction and more like a terrible queue at a DMV run by Ayatollahs. They demand the Shah's return for execution. Carter says no, because apparently the one thing slower than the U.S. Postal Service is U.S. foreign policy. Every night, Walter Cronkite, born on this very date because history loves callbacks, ends his broadcast counting the days. Day 147. Day 238. America treats the hostage crisis like the world's least fun advent calendar. Behind every little door, just another failure. Fast forward 16 years. November 4th, 1995. Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin leaves a peace rally, gets shot by an extremist who decided peace was bad for national security. It's the assassination that killed not just a man, but an entire peace process. Imagine someone shooting Santa Claus because they hated wrapping paper. That's the level of self-sabotage here. Rabin had won the Nobel Peace Prize alongside Yasser Arafat. After his death, the prize committee probably added a footnote. Peace Prize valid until November 4th. And yet, in a rare plot twist, November 4th redeems itself in 2016. The Paris Agreement enters into force, a global deal to slow climate change. For once, humanity looked at a crisis and said, let's fix it, instead of, let's invade Hungary. 195 countries agreed to keep the planet under 2 degrees of regret. Proof that even on its most cursed day, November 4th can still sign something that doesn't end in tanks or hostages. Segment 3, Tomb Raiders and Spy Makers, from Tut to the NSA. November 4th, 1922, Howard Carter finds the steps to King Tut's tomb. The original clickbait headline, "You won't believe what we found in this hole." He telegrams Lord Carnarvon, "Found steps of tomb, stop, send money." Also, stop British Empire from taking credit. When the tomb finally opens, they find gold, chariots, jewelry, 5,400 objects in total. Basically, Tutankhamun was the world's first influencer, buried with all the sponsored content. The find sparks Tut-mania. People start naming their cats Tut, their kids Tut, their jazz clubs Tut's Tomb Lounge. And Egypt, newly independent from Britain, suddenly realizes ancient branding works. See this golden mask? That's national pride with eyeliner. Now fast forward exactly 30 years to 1952. Instead of digging into tombs, the U.S. starts digging into everyone's mail. Harry Truman signs a classified directive creating the National Security Agency. Its mission? Collect all the secrets all the time and pretend it doesn't exist. Hence the nickname, No Such Agency. So November 4th gives us the world's greatest discovery and the world's quietest one. One finds a boy king in gold sandals. The other finds your emails from 2013. Both prove that the past never really stays buried, just sometimes encrypted. Segment 4, Battles and Blunders, from the Wabash to El Alamein. November 4th has never met a battle it didn't want to schedule. 1791, the Battle of the Wabash, aka St. Clair's defeat. A U.S. Army marches into the Northwest Territory and promptly gets turned into a history lesson. Out of 1,000 men, about 800 die fighting a confederation of Miami, Shawnee, and Delaware warriors, led by Little Turtle and Blue Jacket, who sound like adorable cartoon characters until you see the casualty numbers. It was such a disaster that Congress invented its first investigation just to ask, bro, what was that? Basically, November 4th gave us the first episode of C-SPAN, Special Committee on Getting Our Butts Kicked. 1918, Italy and Austria-Hungary sign an armistice at Villa Giusti. The war is ending, the empire is collapsing, and poet Wilfred Owen is killed in action, 7 days before the final armistice. Imagine writing the most powerful anti-war poems ever and then getting the worst, "You won't believe this timing" headline in history. 1942, El Alamein wraps up. Montgomery defeats Rommel. Churchill says, "This is not the end. It's perhaps the end of the beginning." Translation, we finally won one. Pour the gin. If there's a pattern here, it's that November 4th likes to test how many times humans can say never again before immediately doing it again. Segment 5, Minds That Measured Time. Cronkite, Goodall, and the rest of the crew. Some dates get wars. November 4th gets thinkers and storytellers. 1916, Walter Cronkite is born, the man who later makes America trust the news more than its own eyewitness account. He anchors every disaster with a voice so calm it could soothe a tornado. During the 1979 hostage crisis that began on his birthday, he ends each broadcast with the day count. That's commitment. He literally made a national tragedy his birthday countdown. 1960, Jane Goodall watches a chimp strip a twig and use it as a tool. Science freaks out. Humans aren't unique anymore. We're just the species that invented paperwork to prove we're better. Goodall looks at the chimp and thinks, oh no, they're smarter than the guys in Congress. 1847, Felix Mendelssohn dies at 38, heartbroken over his sister Fanny's death. A composer who helped revive Bach dies young, reminding us that art and grief are codependent roommates. And then you've got Will Rogers, Laura Bush, Matthew McConaughey, and Diddy, born on this day too. Tell me that's not a Thanksgiving table waiting to explode. A cowboy humorist, a first lady, a philosopher who says, all right, all right, all right, and a man who once changed his name to Love. If November 4th were a group chat, it would be muted permanently. In conclusion, when you line it all up, wars, elections, discoveries, assassinations, and chimps with better motor skills than us, you start to see a pattern. November 4th is the date humanity uses to press the reset button. We lose a battle, so we invent congressional oversight. We create a spy agency because we once won a war with code breakers. We get humiliated in Tehran, so we elect a movie star. We kill a peace deal, then sign a climate one decades later to make up for it. November 4th is basically Earth's annual performance review, where we alternate between getting fired and getting a promotion.